Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on advancing your ML and DL career with a TF2 certification. What awaits you is an amazing session with former Googler and current CEO of Blue Life AI, Hadelin de Ponteves. First, a little quick insight though. Where are all of you guys joining us from? Feel free to write it in the chat where you're residing right now so we can get a feel of how international you are. For some of you, it might be late at night. Perhaps for some of you, the sun hasn't even come up yet. I can let you know that over here, the sun is shining bright in southern South America. So let's see what everyone else has to say. Where are you all joining us from? We have people coming in from Canada, from Oklahoma, from San Antonio, from Morocco, nice. Bangladesh, Guatemala, Denver, India, Iowa, Morocco, Houston, Utah. A lot of people coming in from Morocco. That's nice. Spain, Germany, Chicago, Bangladesh, India, Chile. We have people all over the world. Cameroon, Utah, Panama. Oh, Netherlands. Awesome. We have British Columbia. It's 1 a.m. here in India. Oh, those people that are in India, the sun is on the other side of the world. Thank you so much for being here. We have quite an amazing and international crowd. A lot of people also coming in. Egypt, India, Saudi Arabia, Brazil. We are touching every single continent. That is beautiful. Also, I'd like to know just how well you all know TensorFlow. Let us know again through the chat if you're just getting started with TensorFlow, if you're knowledgeable with TensorFlow, or if you consider yourself to be a TensorFlow pro. I know that there will be a bit of everything in the crowd, and let me tell you that at whichever level you consider yourself to be, this webinar is sure to bring you loads of information. So let's see what you all have to say. We have people coming in saying they have no experience, they're getting started, they're just starting. That is awesome. What awaits you is great, it's beautiful. We have a lot of people, again, who are just getting started with TensorFlow, and let me tell you, this webinar will shine a huge light about what TensorFlow is and the advantages of having the certification. Again, lots of rookies, that's okay. I mean, getting started is the best and first step, so it is awesome. Let me also break down for you guys a bit just exactly what we'll be covering in this webinar. We're going to talk about why TensorFlow 2.0 is vital for your ML and DL career success, what is possible with TensorFlow 2.0, why the certification is the best route for a long-term career payoff, what you can achieve with the TF2 certification, and the best way to prepare for the TF2 certification. So, if you plan on taking this TF2 certification and joining a very elite and powerful community, stay put because things are about to get very interesting. If you don't plan on doing so, let us convince you otherwise. The TF2 certification can push your career forward in numerous ways, perhaps by helping you land that dream job you've always wanted, or cutting loose and becoming a full-time TF2 freelancer. With this, I kid you not, you can take your career to new heights, and heights that you can only imagine. Also, we'll be hosting a Q&A session at the end, so I'm going to type in and I'm going to leave a link to the chat. I'm going to leave a link in the chat to a form with which you can send us questions. So if you guys give me a little bit of a second, I will send you that link as of right now. And here you go. So now you might be asking yourself, I mean, why take the certification exam? Why bother? Let me share with you guys a story. I wonder how many of you guys out there know about Hydrox cookies. If you do, well, congratulations on your obscure knowledge of baked goods. If you don't, believe me, you're not alone. Hydrox cookies began being manufactured in the US, in the United States, about 100 years ago. At the time, they were seen as something completely new. 2 thin cookies with a layer of cream between them. Now, I know what you're thinking. The name sounds nothing like the product. Actually, the name sounds more like a chemical product than something you'd eat. I mean, it's Hydrox cookies. That does not sound edible. Lo and behold, a couple of years later, another company gets inspired by the product and decides to market it with a different name. That brand? Oreo. Now, I'm pretty sure you may have heard, or maybe you may have eaten a few Oreos yourself. But odds are you haven't eaten any Hydrox cookies. You see, bringing that into the TF context, you can be the most amazing TensorFlow developer. But when you have a brand and a certification that backs up your claim, that's when things take off. So before the certification, you're like a Hydrox cookie. You have a great product, but not a brand that pushes you forward. With the TensorFlow certification, you're like an Oreo. You have a great product and a brand backing you up. So with that, you can reach new heights and take the market by storm. And let me tell you, there is no better person to learn from than Hadelin. I mean, not only is he the CEO of a revolutionary AI company called Blue Life AI, but he's also a top instructor in Udemy, a certified TF developer, and as I said before, a former Googler. This goes to show not only does he know AI like the back of his hand, he's also an amazing teacher and has experienced firsthand the TensorFlow certification exam. So think about all the awesome things that you can learn with him. By now, you're probably asking yourself, okay, but what happens when I get TF certified? I mean, I've personally interviewed different TensorFlow developers who have gone through the certification process, and I wanted to bring to you the reasons that motivated them and how being TensorFlow certified affected their standing in the job market. When asked about why take the TensorFlow certification, the interviewees answered the following. One said he wanted to certify and solidify his knowledge that he already had in order to make his resume more appealing. See, you can see here how the Hydrox versus Oreos come up in real life. Another person wanted to become the point person in their organization for TensorFlow development. Another one thought it was a requirement for his dream job, which they got, so congratulations. And there was another person who said that they wanted to help out their community by being able to teach TensorFlow fundamentals to aspiring data scientists. So it's all across the board. Also, when asked about how the TensorFlow certification changed their professional life, they answered that they now get a lot more offers through LinkedIn thanks to being part of the TensorFlow Developers Global Network. They are seen as the TensorFlow expert and can solve a wide array of TensorFlow and machine learning problems, and that they have firmly established themselves as the TensorFlow team leader. So as you can see, it goes all across the board. Real people have seen real changes in their lives thanks to that TensorFlow certification. And you can expect the same thing to happen to you. On a final note, you may be wondering, but okay, what's the rush? I'll let you in on a little insight. There are roughly 800 people in the TensorFlow Developers Global Network. 800. That means that when you pass your certification, there are only 800 people around the globe who have the same expertise as you have. And honestly, that is very powerful. Becoming TensorFlow certified doesn't only mean that you'll become the point person in your organization or that you'll be seen as the local TensorFlow hero. You'll probably be one of the few TensorFlow developers in your country. Now, imagine having that spotlight all to you. That's what the TensorFlow certification will bring. But don't just take my word for it. Take Hadelin's. Again, he's been through the TensorFlow certification and has seen firsthand just how powerful having that certification is. For that, I welcome you all once again to this amazing webinar titled Advancing Your Machine Learning and Deep Learning Career with a TensorFlow 2 Certification. And also, let's now give a warm welcome to the CEO of Blue Life AI and AI extraordinaire, Hadelin de Ponteves. Hi, Hadelin. How are you doing?
Hi, Roberto. Thank you so much. And what an awesome start with this webinar.
I am so glad you liked it, and our audience is psyched. Our audience is thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm so happy to give this webinar, especially because we have put in a lot of effort into making this product. And so here we are not only here to announce it, but also to motivate people into taking that certification, because indeed, as you said, there is a big why people should take this certification. So that's what I'm going to explain in this webinar, and I'm going to present everything that we have made for the past few months.
Awesome, awesome, great. Well, Hadelin, the stage is yours, and the audience is psyched. So,
thank you very much. All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. As I just said, I'm very happy and grateful that we have finally come to an end with this project. It was a huge project we have made over a few months, and this certification is really something that will make a difference in your career. So that's why it's very important to have this webinar, and so that all of you can understand what you can do with it and how you can leverage it to progress further. All right, so what I'm going to first do is share my screen because I made a presentation, and we're going to see what will be the structure of this webinar and how we're going to interact together in order to discover everything. So I'm going to share my screen right away. All right, there we go. Share. All right, so I hope anyone can see my screen. I will shift between these two tabs, and this is a presentation. So welcome everyone about advancing your machine learning, deep learning career with a TensorFlow 2 certification. So as you understood, the purpose of this presentation is to make you aware of the importance of this TensorFlow certification and how we can help you, prepare it the best way in order for you to master it and level up in your career. All right, so what is the plan of this webinar? It's structured this way in 6 parts. First, we're going to interact a bit together to understand who you are. I want to know where you are from. I want to know the number of years of experience you have in TensorFlow. I want to know if you're looking for a job in data science or in somewhere else, or if you already have a job and you want to level up. So that's going to be in the first step. Second step, I'm going to explain who I am. So I'm going to present a bit about my background. I'm going to explain what I've done in the field of data science over the past few years, and to make you convinced that it would be good for you to work with me, on that endeavor. Then in the third step, I'm going to introduce, of course, TensorFlow 2, because this is like the roots of data science these days. It is the most recognized platform for developing deep learning, machine learning, AI models. So I'm going to remind what TensorFlow 2 especially is all about and why you should really have it in part of your toolkit. Then, of course, we'll move on in the fourth step about the TensorFlow certification and why it is very, very important for you to have it, to make a difference into this huge data science ecosystem. I will actually give you some stats that will, convince you that there is a lot of developers, and in order to, have a plus in your resume or in your experience, well, the certification will bring you a big advantage. So we'll come to the what and the why of that. Then the first step, of course, present our TF2 course, the work that we have been doing over the past few months in order to help you prepare to that certification. And finally, in the sixth step, we are going to interact together again with a Q&A where you will be able to ask me any questions you want, and I will, of course, answer them. All right? Are you ready? Okay, so we're going to start with the first part. In the chat of the webinar, I would like you to tell me where you're from. I would like you to tell me what is your level, meaning the number of years of experience in TensorFlow or in data science, and if you're looking for a job in data science, deep learning, AI, or if you already have a job and want to level up. So now I'm going to switch back to the page. All right, here it is. And okay. So I'm waiting to see the comments to see where you're from.
Okay, we seem to have just a slight little technical issue that Hadelin has left the stage, but he's now back.
Hello? Yes, I'm here.
You are back, and we have lots of comments coming in, Hadelin. We have people coming in from Panama, India, Trinidad and Tobago, Bulgaria. Take your pick.
Amazing. So it's actually the same map as the TensorFlow developers right now, because actually in this webinar, I'm going to talk about the TensorFlow certificate network, where we are able to see all the developers that have the certifications, country by country. So it's good. It's actually the same of the map. It's very broad. So you guys are coming from everywhere. And what about the numbers of experience? What do we have, Roberto?
There are a lot of people who are getting started with TensorFlow. So we have people who have less of years experience, who have no experience, who are just getting started with TensorFlow, so just getting used to it. 0 years of experience, 1 year of experience, a lot of students, zero years of experience. Someone who needs to learn it for doctoral studies. Okay, that's awesome. We have a lot of people who are just getting started with TensorFlow. So now is the perfect time to just start building those foundations and building on up.
Absolutely, and that's really what I love about you and this community. You have a lot of diversification. You come from everywhere. You have a different, experience. You have different paths into your career into data science. So that's really awesome to see. And so what I see that most of you are beginners, and that's perfect because this presentation is both for beginners and people who already have a job or some certain experience and who want to level up. So that's perfect. Everyone will find some very good use of this presentation. So now I'm going to share my screen again and we'll jump back to the slides to start the plan. All right, here we go. So let's move on to now the next step. So who am I? So for those of you who don't know me yet, so I was born and raised in France, and very young I found a passion for mathematics, which led me closer and closer to data science, of course, and artificial intelligence. So after all my education, I did a bachelor in pure mathematics, very theoretical mathematics, which happened to be very useful in my career in data science to understand really what's inside the black box, how it's functioning inside the black box at the math level. So I'm really glad I did this pure mathematics. And if you are right now in doing some pure mathematics, please be confident that it will be very useful. And if you're doing more applied mathematics, it's totally fine, because today we have the libraries that allow to build some very powerful machine learning, deep learning, AI models without, really understanding what's inside the black box. So both is good. But if you really want to, for example, do research in artificial intelligence, which is a lot of what TensorFlow developers do, to make the research progress, then pure mathematics will be very useful. So that's why I wanted to mention it. Then after this bachelor in pure mathematics, I pursued an engineering degree. So that's like a master's. I pursued a master's of engineering with, of course, a specialization in artificial intelligence. And at the same time, I was doing a master of research in artificial intelligence because I actually wanted to do a PhD. When I was in my engineering school, I had this desire of doing a PhD. But, as it is the case in life, you have some different events and that lead you to do something else. And that something else I did was to work 1 year at Google in Paris and London. And that's where I did my first data science project. That's where I built my first artificial intelligences because I was actually working for the mobile advertising team, and I was using reinforcement learning to, optimize the click-through rates in ads. So that's a very classic AI model. It's actually the basic branch of reinforcement learning. But I was very happy to start with this, and of course, then in the coming years, I did more advanced models. But yes, I really have a great memory of this year at Google, where I made my very first real-world artificial intelligence, and that was awesome. But then I didn't want to continue to work more at Google because some big inspiration grew in me. It was the fact that I really wanted to become an entrepreneur and create something, because indeed it felt like I wanted to have an infinite potential. And Google is a great company, but it's just that the progress is quite slow. You have a huge hierarchy in the whole business, so you progress like little by little. And I had a feeling that by becoming an entrepreneur, I could make a more global impact, which is exactly what happened at the end, because indeed, after Google, I started my first business, which was in online education. And along with my dear friend and business partner, Kirill Eremenko, well, we started to create online courses in artificial intelligence and data science for two reasons. First, because we observed that there was a higher and higher demand in artificial intelligence and data science, and therefore, accordingly, the demand for trainings and courses would increase. So basically, we identified as business people a good product market fit, right? Because there was a market with a high demand. So if we made a product which was not that competitive at the time, well, we would have a good product market fit. So we started to create these online courses in data science. And also in the spirit of a more long-term vision, well, we were observing that, we were transitioning into a kind of new industrial revolution where, AI would not destroy, but would replace a lot of jobs, right? So actually, a lot of jobs would become destroyed, and a lot more jobs would become created, just like the Industrial Revolution 1.5 centuries ago. And so we thought that we would help a lot the students and people to transition into this new industrial revolution, where most of their jobs will be around data science and artificial intelligence. And with that, we can clearly see, with the stats and the data, that indeed there are more and more data science jobs, and there are more and more demand for it, and therefore the demand accordingly increases for these formations. So that's why we started this business, and we haven't stopped doing it, and that's what we're still doing today with these TensorFlow certification course. And so there we go. That's why that's how I transitioned into an entrepreneurship journey. And in number 6, I created with Kirill the machine learning A to Z course, which became a super popular and successful course in machine learning, teaching all the basics, but also all the branches of machine learning. And indeed, in 4 years, well, it accumulated 700,000 students. And today, with more than 80 courses created, all in data science and also other technologies, well, we have gathered 1.2 million students. So that's kind of the feeling I had when I was working at Google. I wanted to make an impact, and today I'm very grateful that I made this with Kirill a global impact, having all these students trained well in data science. And indeed, every day we receive some testimonials of students that smashed their interviews for great companies or were hired in top tech companies. So we are very grateful for that, and we are so inspired to see the feedback and seeing that we're making contribution into the data science ecosystem. So yes, that's mostly our purpose, and that's our journey into this entrepreneurship. And at the same time, while making these courses, I also wrote a book which is called AI Crash Course. Of course, a book on artificial intelligence, which is kind of a good complement to the courses, because a lot of the real world cases that are in this book are taken from my courses, but I also added some new ones. So, it's an extra support, an extra resource in, learning about data science. And at the same time, 2 years ago, we founded a company, Blue Life AI, which builds customized artificial intelligence solutions for companies who don't have the time to train their employees to build artificial intelligence or to become expert at it. And so we made this company to help them directly build the AIs without having to, train their team. So that's another, complementary service that we add in this whole ecosystem. And if you want to know some more personal stuff about me, well, I'm passionate about new technologies, obviously. I'm also very passionate about blockchain. We also made a course about blockchain. I'm passionate about cinema, psychology, and travel. All right. So I hope that wasn't too long. That's who I am. And now let's get straight to the point with TensorFlow 2. We're going to start by explaining what it is and why you should really, really have it part of your toolkit. I'm going to just drink a bit of water. All right. So first, what is TensorFlow 2? So TensorFlow is an open source framework, meaning a bunch of libraries that contain some codes with which you can do some data science models. And that is used by data science practitioners and students. And at any level, I will explain further that anyone can use TensorFlow 2. A beginner could make a very advanced deep learning model with TensorFlow 2 because it is very well written, and the integration of the Keras library will allow you to build an artificial neural network in just a few lines of code, and students to develop advanced machine learning algorithms. It is owned by Google and performs a range of other complex tasks, such as deep learning and building neural networks. Not only deep learning, but also natural language processing, you will see, and also you will see that there is a whole ecosystem around TensorFlow, because indeed you can combine it with JavaScript, you can combine it with TensorFlow Lite to build some artificial intelligences on mobile. So you will see that this is actually not only a library, not only a simple platform, but also a huge ecosystem. The first version of TensorFlow was released in 2015. That was TensorFlow 1, actually. And it was written, well, it's still written in Python, C++, CUDA programming languages. And today, the latest TensorFlow API version is 2.3.0. Now, what really is important to highlight in this TensorFlow development is the transition from TensorFlow 1 to TensorFlow 2. So actually, to tell you the truth, when TensorFlow 1 was existing and we were not yet at TensorFlow 2, I was not that convinced about TensorFlow. I was convinced about its power. I was, using it to build very advanced and powerful models, but the API wasn't that great. And I actually had a slight preference for another kind of AI API or AI platform, which was PyTorch. If you followed some of my courses on artificial intelligence, well, you probably have heard me say that indeed I have a slight preference for PyTorch, and I really sold PyTorch. Well, that was at the time, TensorFlow 1 was the version, not yet TensorFlow 2. But there was a huge progress made when this transition from TensorFlow 1 to TensorFlow 2 happened, which actually made me feel the opposite. I actually eventually preferred TensorFlow 2. Indeed, and that's what I want to cover in the why TensorFlow 2. Well, there are several reasons that makes today TensorFlow 2 the best AI platform. And again, I have no affiliation or no partnership or whatsoever with TensorFlow 2. This is really my objective preference. Today, I really consider that TensorFlow 2 is the ultimate AI platform to code deep learning and AI. And let me explain you why right now, which is what you see on this slide. So first, TensorFlow 2, just as TensorFlow 1, but even more than TensorFlow 1, is very, very powerful. You have faster trainings of neural nets than in TensorFlow 1. You can combine GPUs and CUDA, for example, like you see the CUDA programming language, to accelerate the training of your neural networks. Today, people who want to, become first at the leaderboard of, AI benchmarks, well, they will use TensorFlow 2. You can use TensorFlow 2 in Google Colab with a GPU to accelerate the trainings of your neural networks. So it is very, very, very powerful. PyTorch is also very powerful, but today I would, in case I'm doing a very advanced model in AI, I would use TensorFlow 2. Then, second reason, and you will love this because as I saw in the beginning of this webinar, there are a lot of beginners here, so you might want to start with a simple platform. Well, that's the second reason. TensorFlow 2 is very simple, and the main reason for that is that Keras was integrated into TensorFlow, into this for this TensorFlow 2.0 version. So let me explain the difference between TensorFlow and Keras. So first, when TensorFlow 1 was only existing without TensorFlow 2, well, we had separately TensorFlow and Keras. And usually, beginners would prefer Keras because indeed that was with Keras that we could build a very advanced neural network in only a few lines of code. And people, like beginners especially, didn't appreciate that much TensorFlow because it was complicated. You had to open a session each time you declared a new constant or variable. It was not very intuitive. It was not very pleasant to code when you were a beginner. And now with this integration of Keras into TensorFlow 2, well, you can build the same advanced deep learning models with TensorFlow 2 directly because it has integrated Keras. So that's a really great improvement that I saw in TensorFlow 2, and that really made me happy, even if I'm no longer a beginner today, but still, I really, really appreciate the pleasure of being able to code with Keras inside TensorFlow 2. So that's the second reason. Now, the third reason is the API cleanup. Indeed, TensorFlow 1 API was kind of a, how should I say it best? Like, it was not perfectly structured. It was a bit complicated API. You had many modules that could be better structured. And what they did when developing TensorFlow 2 with respect to TensorFlow 1 is that they removed a lot of modules. For example, I gave some examples here. They removed tf.keras.optimizers to perform stochastic gradient descent with, for example, some optimizers like Atom. They removed tf.keras.metrics, tf.summary, which were a lot of different sub-tools that were not very convenient to use. Which, in fact, you have to call many of them separately to perform a single model. And now they did a cleanup by removing all these modules, by restructuring everything better. And now indeed, when you're building a machinery model, deep learning model with TensorFlow 2, it is much nicer and much simpler to make it thanks to this restructure of the whole API. So that's a very good advantage, a very good benefit brought into TensorFlow 2. Reason number four, why TensorFlow 2? Well, it is a much better ecosystem. So that's what I was mentioning at the beginning of this slide. You can deploy your models more efficiently on other connected platforms. You know, it's like an internal IoT system because you have TensorFlow at the heart, but on the on the outside, you can connect that with TensorFlow.js, in order to combine TensorFlow and JavaScript. You can combine that with TensorFlow Lite if you want to, integrate your TensorFlow-based models on a mobile, whether it is iOS and Android, and which we will be covering, of course, in our course. So you have a great ecosystem that allows you to build from a hard ecosystem, which is TensorFlow 2, several applications on diverse connected devices. And that I mentioned iOS and Android, but also you can have, for example, Raspberry Pi. You can have some embedded devices that you would connect to TensorFlow. So that's a great ecosystem, and you will see that in order to make some good applications of TensorFlow in devices, well, this is very, very practical. And now, reason number five, the last one, the default eager execution. We no longer need the sessions. Indeed, in TensorFlow 1, the beginners were not very happy about the fact that we had to open a session anytime we create something new, whether it is constant or variable. It was very, very non-practical. And well, this has disappeared with TensorFlow 2, so you have no need of sessions anymore. And which makes TensorFlow 2 much nicer to use and much simpler to use, while remaining at the same time very powerful. All right, so that's why TensorFlow 2, and so that's the essential reasons. And I will mention some more actually in a PDF that you can find. You will be able to find on our platform, TFcertification.com. So I will show this to you right away. These are just some extra reasons. So indeed, you will find in this website the top 10 advantages of TensorFlow 2.0 with, of course, another description of TensorFlow 2.0, to sum it up. And so the other reasons, there are good reasons, is that it is backed by Google. Of course, Google is one of the most recognized IT company today. So this gives a good hint that indeed the TensorFlow certification will be a great one to use and to have. It is open source and free, meaning that anyone can use it to build any model. There is a large and vibrant community. We will talk about that soon when indeed I will introduce you to the TensorFlow certification network, where you will be able to see yourself on the map after you pass the certification. There is a growth and in-demand skill and popularity. So indeed, when we look at these stats, we can see that not only I prefer TensorFlow than the other APIs like PyTorch or FastAI, but also the stats prove it. So if we look at the online job listing growth, well, we see that TensorFlow is first, with PyTorch just behind. And if we also look at the new GitHub activity, we can see that TensorFlow is first everywhere in the stats, the forks, the watches, and the contributions. So the stats prove that really TensorFlow is number one in terms of recognition, in terms of use, and in terms of what you can make with it. Then, as we said in the reasons, well, there is a great ease of use, and it's rich in features, and also at the same time simplified so that it's well structured. You have a compatibility across platforms. That's what I was mentioning by when I said that you can combine TensorFlow, which is at the heart, with other connected devices like iOS, Android, Raspberry Pi, and also you can combine it very easily to a GPU to accelerate the training of your neural networks. You have a great visualization feature with the Tensor board, which allows to clearly visualize what you build with TensorFlow. You have a great integration of high-level libraries like Keras, so that's what was brought in TensorFlow 2, but also with JavaScript. It is widely used in research and production, so you can read all this. Indeed, when you want to make artificial intelligence progress, you will use, of course, TensorFlow. And lastly, it has an auto differentiation filter, meaning that TensorFlow 2.0 has built-in automatic differentiation capabilities, which facilitate gradient-based machine learning algorithms. All right, so basically this improves the performance. All right, so now we're gonna move back to the slides. Here we go, to progress to the next step. And this is now that I'm going to explain why the TensorFlow certification is very important for you to have. And it is obviously because, you know, TensorFlow is the most recognized, and also the certification will help you, you know, make a difference into the data science ecosystem. All right. Okay, so first of all, what is the TensorFlow certification? Well, that's really like a statement, an attestation that will confirm that you are indeed high level in deep learning and AI by using the TensorFlow library. So indeed, in order for you to become a well-recognized TensorFlow developer, it is important that you take and pass the TensorFlow certification exam, and having satisfied the requirements, you will be awarded with a TensorFlow developer certificate. So you see, it's a certificate that proves your level in TensorFlow and how you can use it and apply it to build real-world applications. All right, so the name of the TensorFlow certification is exactly TensorFlow Developer Professional Certificate. And so you see, it's like an attestation which you will be able to share in your resume, in social media, which is like a tag basically that will help you make a difference in that ecosystem. But the most important question is not really the what, it's really the why. Why do you need this certification? Well, I'll give you 5 reasons. But I really want to start with the most essential one. You know, the one that is really the reason why you should get this certification, whatever the situation you are in your life right now. Because indeed, if you are looking for an IT job, you know, if you're looking for a job, if you're a beginner, if you want to start a career in data science, well, the simple reason why you should get this certification is that you will get this job a lot easier. And I will explain the why of that. Because the problem is that, you know, artificial intelligence, data science is kind of a recent trend. It's like it's a long time trend, but it's not a very old job. It's a new job, right? It's a job of this new century. So what happens is that there were an ongoing demand of data science, and therefore a lot of people actually declare themselves as data scientists. You know. They would just, for example, study a course and they would declare themselves data scientists. But that's not really the fact, right? You don't have to, if you follow a course, that doesn't mean you are a data scientist and you're able to build some real data science applications. So there needs to be a metric that will assess your level in data science in order to, you know, make the difference between the real data scientists that can really do something with data science in TensorFlow compared to the fake, because in this community there is actually this term calling the fake data scientists that you know, have some vague notions about data science but would not be able to make anything about data science or make anything with TensorFlow. So there was this problem in the community. Basically there was a high demand for data scientists, but at the same time, there were very few data scientists that would really be able to do the job. And therefore, there was a big need to make some kind of a certification to assess the performance of data scientists. And that's really the why the certification was born. It's so that in order to really detect and see the real data scientists. So that's why if you get this certification, you will be considered as you know, a real deal, you know, as a real data scientist, really able to build some data science projects, to make some artificial intelligence. And that's really the most important reason. And then if you already have a job in data science, well, of course, you're already considered as a real data scientist, you know, not a fake one. You're really considered as a person who can make some data science projects, who can build some AIs and deep learnings, but you will still make a difference by having the certification with the developers that don't have the certification. And I will tell you an example of this from my experience. So when I was working at Google, we're actually a team of developers, data scientists, and the team was actually big. And it's not like in consulting companies where the promotion is automatic. In consulting companies, every 6 months you progress to the next role, to the higher level role. Well, in some IT companies, it's not like that. You can stay at the same position for a very, very long time if you don't know how to make a difference, or if you don't show that you bring some added value. And well, that was the case when I was in Google. We were a team of many data scientists, and the one that got the promotion, the one that got the better role, the higher salary, and the higher responsibility role was someone who didn't have a certification, of course, because that certification didn't exist at the time, but who could prove that he was able to build some projects and bring some more added value than others. So that's a way, of course, of level up in the company and get a better job, a better responsibility. But of course, now that you have the certification, well, if you pass this certification, well, you have definitely an advantage with respect to the others to level up and get that better job, better promotion. So if you already have a job, you will level up faster, and that's the essential reason why you should take this certification. You will clearly make a difference in this ecosystem where you will have a huge plus in your resume to either get that job or either level up in that job and get a promotion. So that's the number one reason. Now let's go to some other important reasons, but that are not that essential, with respect to this first one. So the second reason is that indeed you are part of an elite community. Indeed, that certification is actually pretty hard to pass. You really have to study hard, and that's what we made this training. So you have to study hard, and therefore, if you pass the certification, you will really be considered as a high-level data scientist. All right, that's what I meant earlier by real data scientist, to really make that difference between purely beginners and advanced data scientists. So you will be part of the elite community, giving you at the same time certain privileges and access to exclusive updates. And these can include keynotes, these can be invitations to conferences, these can be to participate to some events related to TensorFlow. These can be, you can get some updates about the research. So really, it's not only about having the certification, it's also about getting some advantages, which will help you, of course, in your career because you will get some more information. So that's another very important reason. Then a third important reason is that it gives you a higher value and stronger image. And that's obvious. That's because, first of all, as we saw in the previous slide, well, TensorFlow is now recognized as the top AI framework. It is recognized as the highest level AI framework, recognized by every developers. And also, second reason is that the certification in TensorFlow is not given by any company or any institution. It is given by Google. And of course, we all know that Google is one of the top players in the IT industry and artificial intelligence. So of course, if you have not only a certification in TensorFlow that is at the same time given by Google, well, accordingly, without a doubt, that gives you a higher value and a stronger image, and an image that cannot be refuted, right? So you have this, in other words, the ultimate certification in TensorFlow, and this is indeed the most recognized deep learning and AI framework in the industry. So that higher value and stronger image, you can share it on social media, you can put it on your resume, and you can actually put it on you will be put on the network, so people will find you and people will already see you from the very beginning of your interviews as higher value. Then reason number 4, you get listed on the public certified directory, which is the TensorFlow Developer Certificate Network. And that's what I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, which is why I wanted to ask you where you were from. Indeed, I'm going to show it to you right away. If we go back to the site that I prepared for this presentation, well, here you go. Here is the TensorFlow Certificate Network, which is indeed the map of all the TensorFlow certificate developers in the world. So you can see that we have those developers everywhere in the world, whether it is in Europe, in the US, in South America, in India. They are everywhere. And And so you can, after you pass the certification, well, you will see yourself on this map, and you will be recognized as a TensorFlow developer certificate player. So there you go. That's a nice thing to have. It's really there is really this ecosystem where you're all together, and once again, that reinforces the elite community, because you can all see yourself in the same group, in the same elite part of developers. Okay, so I wanted to show you this. Now let's go back to the slides. And finally, reason number 5, I already mentioned it actually, you can build a huge social media presence, right? The TensorFlow Developer Certificate, as I said, is like a badge that you can put on your social media accounts, whether it is LinkedIn, Twitter, even Facebook, or anywhere else. And you can also put that on your resume. But it is so highly recognized that indeed it will give you an advantage. It will give you a plus. You will be recognized as part of that elite community of developers. So I hope that convinces you, but keep in mind that the most essential reason is that you want to optimize your career. So if you're looking for a job, you will get it a lot easier with the TensorFlow certification. And if you already have a job, you will accelerate your career. You will optimize your career by leveling up faster. All right. And now I'm going to introduce you to our TF2 course. So indeed, now that we are convinced about the importance of having this certification, well, that's where we wanted to make this course, to help you prepare. And the two most important factors of how we will help you prepare are these two that you see on this slide. First, the exhaustive structure. So it's actually a very well structured with an exhaustive content, because indeed you will see that we cover all the different branches of TensorFlow, including, of course, the ones that are required for the exam. So I will introduce you to the structure right away on our website, tf2certification.com. And then the most important and most essential factor of our course, which will help you prepare the best to the exam, is the exam practice samples. So after you study the whole content and the different branches of TensorFlow with a lot of practical exercises, well, you will get at the end, or even before if you want to start them, the exam practice samples. And that's a huge plus of our course, because indeed our course includes every month some exam practice samples that are taken from the real exam. So what we do is, in fact, we have some team of developers who take the exam, will not, of course, copy-paste the exam, but will just get inspiration from the exam to make some practice samples of the exam. And that's every month, so that we can keep up to date, we can stay up to date with the exams in case it changes. So basically, so we have myself who took the exam, we have Luca who took the exam as well, and some more developers who will take the exam and get some inspiration from it, and will reproduce some similar exams practice samples to help you practice and train for the exam. So this is really a very important factor of this course, which will help you practice the best way, so that when you come to the exam, it's like you will have done it already. You will be very you will actually have the feeling that you're very well prepared for the exam. You see what I mean? So these are the two important factors. And now I'm going to jump back to the website, which is our tf2certification.com, which contains the whole course. And so at the first, you will see some brief description of what it is, which is what we discussed, the TensorFlow certification. You have a presentation of myself, and then the reason why you should take this course. You have the link to go to the course here, download the curriculum. But mostly what I want to show you right now is the structure of this course. So it is structured, first of all, in different volumes. So by volume, I mean, first volume is parts 1 to 3, which covers deep learning. So that's why this course is very suitable for beginners, because we will start from scratch, and we will start by studying all deep learning in depth, not only in theory, but also in practice. So we will first explain all the functions of deep learning, how to build a neural network, how they work, how they learn. This is actually taken from our deep learning course. So if you already took that course, you can take it again in order to refresh your knowledge, but also you can maybe switch to the next part. But there you go, you will have all the basics explained so that you can really understand well deep learning. And that's the first volume. It's structured in different parts. So part 1 will be about artificial neural network. Part 2 will be about convolutional network to do image recognition or object detection. And part 3 will be about recurrent neural network to study time series and to actually integrate a memory dimension in your neural network. So that's the first volume, part 1 to 3, deep learning. Then in the second volume, we will study all about computer vision. So there are actually 7 parts for this, parts 4 to 10. And indeed, in these parts, we will study everything about computer vision with TensorFlow, of course. And this will be very, very important for the exam, because in the exam, you will actually have 5 questions, 5 exercises. And at least two of them will be about computer vision. So you must really study these parts well in order to understand everything about computer vision on the theory side, but also on the practical side, meaning what you can do with TensorFlow for it, okay? So that's parts 4 to 10, and these includes image recognition. This includes multi-class classification, also transfer learning, to do some transfer learning from one image to another. What else do we have? We also have image recognition, yes, I said it, object detection. So you'll see, you will also learn how to work with real-world images, and you will learn some techniques such as image augmentation to, for example, improve the performance, improve the accuracy by trying to reduce overfitting. So you will get basically all the techniques of computer vision, which are, once again, very important for the exam. All right, so that's the second volume. Then third one, parts 11 to 13 will be about JavaScript. So in this section, you will dig even deeper and learn and explore diverse tools to become a global master in TensorFlow. As I said before in this presentation, TensorFlow is not only a library or a platform, it is a whole ecosystem, because indeed you can combine TensorFlow with other APIs like JavaScript. So indeed, in these parts, 11 to 13, you will learn how to combine TensorFlow with JavaScript with an API that is called TensorFlow Dynamo, part of the ecosystem. So you will learn that. However, I want to highlight this, that this is not part of the exam. Well, actually, we have not seen it in the exam yet. We took the exam several times, but we have not seen it in the exam yet. And therefore, we say to you that indeed in the course, that's not part of the exam. So if you only are taking the course to practice for the exam and pass the exam to certification, well, you don't have to focus too much about this. However, this will be a huge plus to master this, TensorFlow with JavaScript, because indeed, that's something you will definitely do at some point in your career. And anyway, we want to teach you the whole TensorFlow ecosystem and not only the platform, okay, the library. All right, so that's JavaScript. Then next volume, parts 14 to 17. This volume is about natural language processing. So here we cover all the techniques of natural language processing and everything you can do with TensorFlow to build some NLP applications. So in these parts, we will not really build a chatbot because that would require another big course, but we will do, at least the essential applications of natural language processing that you can do today. So we will use, of course, LSTMs and see how they can be applied to NLP, which is actually called deep natural language processing. And we will implement several of them together to actually generate some text, right? So this is one of the main applications of what we do here. We will do some text generation with RNNs and LSTM, and then we will use inference to, for example, predict what will be the next word in a sequence, or what could be returned by, next generation system. Okay? So that's what we do, natural processing, which we, of course, combine with deep learning in order to do deep NLP, and that's what we do with TensorFlow 2, of course. All right, so that's the next volume. Then, next volume is all about time series analysis. So for those of you who followed our courses, you will be happy to see this volume, because indeed we have not covered that much time series analysis in our diverse courses. So you will be very happy to have this here. And of course, here we will learn how to use deep learning and neural network with, of course, TensorFlow 2 to perform some great time series predictions. All right, so you will learn all about time series analysis. We actually include all the theory of time series analysis, and then you have some practical applications of how to build systems with TensorFlow for time series analysis, in order to make predictions on time series. And of course, this is part of the exam as well as natural language processing. So basically, so far, everything is part of the exam except this volume with JavaScript. So far, maybe we'll see it in the next exam, but I don't think so. So time series analysis. And finally, the last volume of this course, parts 22 to 25, TensorFlow Lite. So this is, another part of the ecosystem, an external part. So TensorFlow Lite basically allows you to integrate your TensorFlow models inside Android or iOS or even some embedded systems like Raspberry Pi. And this is explained more on a superficial level because this is not part of the exam, but you will see what you can do with it. You will see some codes as well in order to implement this. But of course, we will not build together a whole embedded system by using Raspberry Pi. As well, this would require another external course. But we want you to have all the basics of what you can do with TensorFlow, and that includes TensorFlow Lite. All right? So this is the whole structure. So now remember, the reason why this TensorFlow certification course will help you prepare the right way to this TensorFlow certification exam is twofold. First, you have a very exhaustive contents because indeed we cover all the different branches of TensorFlow, including deep learning, computer vision, JavaScript, all the parts of the ecosystem, natural language processing, time series analysis, and TensorFlow Lite. And at the same time, it is very well structured, and at the same time, we give you these monthly practice samples based on the real exam sample, the real exams certification that will help you prepare to the exam, so that when you go to the exam, you're kind of already prepared to that. You have already assimilated the exercises, and you know what to do, and therefore you will be very well prepared for the exam. And I remind that we will take these exams every month in order to stay up to date with the exams in case they change, and so that you can really be prepared in due time, okay, on the in real time. So these are the two essential elements. And now to just remind, the parts of the structure that are included in the exam are parts 1 to 3 deep learning, parts 4 to 10 computer vision, parts 14 to 17 natural language processing, 18 to 21 time series analysis, and the rest, JavaScript and TensorFlow Lite, are not covered in the exam. Okay, so it's just for you to just master the whole TensorFlow ecosystem. All right, so I hope you will enjoy this course. You will not only enjoy it because you will learn a lot about TensorFlow, and also you will enjoy it because you will be prepared well to the exam. And after we have made this whole course, we are so much convinced that it will help you pass the TensorFlow certificate that we actually decided to pay for your second attempt at the exam if you don't pass the first time. So that's how we're really convinced that our course will help you, smash the exam. All right. And then at the end, well, that's exactly what we said. We have already some testimonials. And as a final note, I will say that your TensorFlow developer certificate is waiting for you after you take this course. Okay. So now we're going to go back to the slides. Well, actually, we have one last slide. It is now time to move on to the Q&A. So please ask any question you want about the course, about TensorFlow, about the TensorFlow certification, and I will be very glad to answer them. So now I will just stop sharing my screen and go back to the webinar.
Well, thank you so much, Hadelin. That was an amazing webinar. I mean, you covered absolutely everything about, well, TF certification, about what TensorFlow is, about how you can take advantage of TensorFlow to boost your career. You pretty much went A through Z over there, and I am reading in the chat. Everyone is thrilled at everything that you were saying. Now, we have a load of questions coming in, so if you don't mind, how about we get started with that Q&A?
Sure, let's start. Let's get started.
Awesome. First question: what are or what is the prerequisite knowledge to getting started with TensorFlow 2? Is there any prerequisite knowledge needed
So is it to start TensorFlow 2 or is it to start the course?
to start TensorFlow 2?
Okay, so to start TensorFlow 2, of course, you will need a basic understanding of how neural networks work, because the purpose of TensorFlow 2 is to build neural networks. So of course, you at least need to know about the theory and how they work, theoretically, because otherwise it will be too much of a black box. So it's really important that indeed there is at least a basic understanding, of the foundation behind deep learning and artificial neural networks. But if the question is there any prerequisite to start the course? Well, no, because actually we start the course by giving all the foundations of deep learning. We give all the theory, how they work, how they learn, so that they can understand what's inside the black box, and then use TensorFlow to build them. So that's why we really give everything in this course.
Okay, wonderful. And kind of tailing that with the next question, someone asked, how feasible is it for a beginner to start in TensorFlow? I think you pretty much answered that. I mean, with the course, it's beginner friendly. You can get started from zero and earn your certification at the end.
Yes, absolutely. No. Really, this course, and I forgot to mention it, but this course follows a step-by-step approach, meaning that when you start the course, it's like destined for pure beginners, like as if you started from scratch. So we start by really, the neuron level, and then we add the several components of a neural network by adding the connections between several neurons and the layers, and then that's what forms the neural networks. Then we explain how they work, then we explain how they learn, how they get trained with backpropagation and stochastic gradient descent with the use of optimizers, and then we explain how to do inference. So it's really a step-by-step approach where we start from scratch and we progress higher and higher level until we come, of course, to the practical applications where we can use TensorFlow to build them. So there is really first the theory, the intuition given, and then the whole practical side of things by teaching them, of course, step by step, how to build some models with TensorFlow 2.
Awesome, wonderful. Now we have another question that goes: do you need to have advanced math skills to explain the used deep learning models in the exam?
Not at all. Okay, so as I said at the beginning of the presentation, I said that I was very grateful and it was very useful for me to have done a bachelor in pure mathematics, because that helped me understand at a high level what's really inside the black box of neural networks and artificial intelligence. However, that being said, the TensorFlow library is so well made that you don't even have to understand at the deepest level what's functioning inside the black box. And that's why everybody today can use TensorFlow by not having full understanding of what's inside the black box. They just need to understand the principles, the basics, and that's of course what you explain in the course. And then it's enough to build these applications with TensorFlow 2. They will understand what they're making. They will not just maybe understand the deepest level of mathematics inside it. But if they want to do it, of course, we will provide the resources, if they want to really understand what happens at the math level, we will provide the resource for them to get it.
Okay, wonderful. Now, another question coming in. This question is, how seriously is the TensorFlow certification taken? And is it generally well known in the data community?
Okay, so the TensorFlow certification is quite recent, to be honest. It actually has a couple months. But what I'm seeing is that more and more developers are taking it. More and more people are asking for it. So it's like the beginning. Every beginning, at first, it's known into a small part of the community, but it's kind of obvious that for two reasons. One is that TensorFlow 2 is now #1 AI framework, and second, the certification is given by Google. So you have a certification given by the top IT company on the top AI platform, which will of course be in a higher and higher demand over time. So I have absolutely no doubt that this will become like the CFA of artificial intelligence. That highest level certification.
Okay, wow, that is pretty much sky high. That's awesome. Now another question. This question says, do I have to be a pro in Python to use TensorFlow effectively, or just beginner intermediate skills are enough?
Absolutely not. You don't have to be a pro at all to do TensorFlow, because it's that API is very advanced. So as I said in the presentation, you can build some very, very advanced AI models, some very, very advanced deep learning models, artificial neural networks, with only a few lines of code. And that is thanks to the API. So basically, you don't have to code all the details of how a neural network is built in code in order to build it. You can just use the libraries, and you can use them, combine them to make even more advanced neural networks. So this is exactly what we explain in the course. We will build each neural network step by step, and you will see that it doesn't take 1,000 lines of code. It only takes less than 100 lines of code for each of the models. And therefore, everyone can totally be comfortable into making them without having a very advanced Python level.
Awesome, awesome. And kind of tailing in again at that question, we have another question that says, how is TensorFlow 2.0 different from TensorFlow 1.0?
Okay, so TensorFlow 2.0 is different in the sense that, well, the main difference is that Keras was integrated inside TensorFlow. So when TensorFlow 1 was only existed, you had TensorFlow 1 separately and Keras separately. So that was two different APIs, and beginners would rather use Keras to build their models. Because indeed, with TensorFlow 1, you would have to implement big codes in order to build your models, because you had to call different modules, and it was very more detailed, and therefore it was more for advanced coders. But now in TensorFlow 2.0, which is the main improvement, for beginners, is the fact that Keras was integrated. So now with TensorFlow 2.0, you can much more easily build your neural networks thanks to the integration of Keras. And then the other reasons is the ones that I mentioned in the webinar. So you don't have the use of sessions yet, which makes the whole API much simpler. What else? You have this API cleanup, which allows you to have a much more structured API, and therefore, you can take a much better step back to understand how you can use the different tools of TensorFlow 2. You have also some new modules that allows you to build some more advanced AI models. So basically, these are the main differences. But the main difference that I want to give is that I really like this has become my top one AI framework now, TensorFlow 2. As I said to the audience before, I used to prefer PyTorch. I said it in my courses. But now with TensorFlow 2, I, without hesitation, prefer TensorFlow. So it has really made this difference. It has become much more user friendly. It has become much simpler to use, and it has now made a lot of data scientists' jobs much easier to use.
Okay, great. Now, for the next question, we have a question this time that says, does the TensorFlow certification expire?
No, I don't think it expires until. That's a good question, actually. I think it lasts at least 1 year.
Okay, wonderful. Now, let's jump into another series of questions. Let's pick out a few for here.
Okay, so I have
go ahead.
I have the answer to that. So it's not 1 year; it's 3 years.
Okay.
The TensorFlow certification expires 36 months from the date when you receive your digital badge.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So that's quite some time. That's great.
Yeah,
now another question. Do you need a good understanding of programming languages in order to get the TensorFlow 2.0 certification?
No, so the same as Python, actually. So this question is kind of similar to the question I was asking if you need a very advanced level in Python to use TensorFlow and build some advanced projects in it. No, it's the same, because anyway, TensorFlow is, as we saw, is mostly using Python, while also written in C++ and CUDA, but it's the same answer. It It is a so well-structured library, easy to use, user-friendly, and if you have a good understanding of the essentials, the basics inside the black box, then you will totally be able to use TensorFlow to build advanced projects without having a high level in either Python or another programming language, or in programming language in general.
Okay. Now, one final question. Does the course cover all skills checklists that are listed in the Google TensorFlow candidate handbook?
Yes, absolutely. So we have covered everything. Everything is covered for the handbook, the exam, and even the whole TensorFlow TensorFlow ecosystem. That being said, of course, we have put much more emphasis on the branches that are part of the exam, meaning deep learning, computer vision, NLP, time series, than the other parts. So if we look at the structure again, indeed, we have a structure in 6 volumes and 25 parts. And well, all the volumes, all the branches that are part of the exam, well, we put a lot of emphasis to it. We do a lot of explanation. We do a lot of activities. It's covered in great details in the exam. But for the rest that are not part of the exam, we give the essentials, we give the foundation techniques, but we won't implement like a full project, or we won't implement a great tool. That's what I said, for example, in the last volume with TensorFlow Lite. We won't build a complete embedded device by combining TensorFlow with Raspberry Pi, for example, to build a full application. But for the rest, yes, this is really exhaustive. As I said, this is really an exhaustive content. We cover everything in great details. People will not only get the whole theory explained, but also the notebooks. The notebooks of everything that is built in this course. Of course, the first models for beginners are explained in all the details. Every single line of code is explained step by step. So that is done. But then once people get the basics, they will get more independent, and we will go through the codes together without coding all the lines of code together. So they will get the notebooks, they will get the full code, they will get the full explanations, but we won't code all the lines as we do in the first parts of the course, covering the basics of deep learning.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I think that pretty much covers the time we have for today. Thank you once again for that unbelievable webinar. I mean, it's been jam-packed with information. Just to give everyone out there a shout out, this recording will be made available later, so don't worry about that. And again, thank you so much, Adlan, for your time. Thank you so much for sharing everything. It has been awesome. It has been great.
Thank you so much, Roberto, and thank you so much for attending this webinar. It was a great pleasure. It was actually my first webinar given. We don't usually do webinars, so it was my first, and I'm very happy that you were here to attend it. So thank you so much, and I hope you will enjoy the course. And we are very, very convinced, we're very, very confident that this will help you pass the certificate and really make an advantage into this ecosystem.
And well, with that, we bid you farewell. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And once again, feel free to join in tfcertification.com. There you can find absolutely everything you need, and well, everything you need for your TensorFlow certification needs. And well, I hope you see you guys there. Bye.
Bye.